Welcome back, everybody. It's New Never You BGM, and today we have some more cards from the new set Hidden Trials, Opus 23, if you're nasty. So we're gonna start this bad boy off with Edge. He is a limit break card of the Lightning variant, Ninja 6K, 6 cost, 8K. So when he hits the field, dude's insane. So he has an auto ability that gives all Lightning cards, job cards that have that are ninjas, and then cards that are named ninjas, that when they attack, they can choose for your opponent controls, hit it with 7K. So this card is going to be insane for a couple of reasons. Ninjas, there are a lot of ninjas that are really good. You got Yuffie, you have Edge, you have Maina is another ninja. She's a backup though. There's a bunch of cards named ninja, and then there's jobs like Yagiri that are ninjas. So this card just enables them to all get, when I attack, I'm gonna hit you for another 7K on the swing. So I think that with that, you have to, one, respect the fact that this card can just pop out of anywhere. Now granted, Edge himself doesn't have haste, but if you play him in a mono lightning build, all your lightning cards that have been out on the field for more than one turn get this effect. And if you're playing the Ramu that gives cards haste, you can give him haste as well. Now the thing is, obviously he's 8K, so Amaterasu hits him, bam. And Amaterasu on any other card that attacks with this ability, it also gives them an auto ability. So you also have to contend with the fact that there is the fact that Amaterasu can also hit them on the attack. Understanding that Amaterasu exists, Mist Dragon exists, Kukulane exists, all these cards that can theoretically get rid of everything that you've built. Beyond that, this card's really good. Now he is very expensive and he takes up half your limit break deck to play, but he's also potentially a game ender and a board wiper. My favorite element is lightning for multiple reasons. Lightning's always been one of my favorite in real life. So for me, this card is really good and I think deserving of a legend spot. Quantifies anything that comes out ninja or lightning from here until the end of time. Hopefully this game doesn't die and we get 300 sets, 500 sets, whatever. But for me, Edge is top tier card, and I'm definitely gonna figure out a way to implement him in my decks, because I've also tried to build ninjas, and ninjas was always, to me, lacking something to get them over the edge. But I mean, this just makes Yuffie herself that more powerful. Next up is Caius. Man, this has got to be the sexiest card in FFTCG right now. He got the drip. If you look at the broken glass, you can see Noel in it. The time clocks, the just everything. Caius is that guy. Caius is probably one of my favorite Final Fantasy villains, and he's not really a villain. He just was misunderstood. But he has Brave, which is always good, and I think most of his cards do have Brave. And when he hits the field, he gets to search for a card named Bahamut, not just a summon, but a card name. And for that turn, any card named Bahamut, the next one that you cast is reduced by 5. So there's summons, there's forwards, there might be a point where there's monsters, backups. Either way, he lets you borderline play a lot of them for free, but it also counts as a cast. So if you're mixing this with Wind and you need more cast counts, that's 2 casts off the rip with him. If you're using him for Fang reduces him by 2. He's a 3 cost. If you're playing the other Fang that reduces the cost of Bahamut by 2 when she swings, then that makes a lot of other Bahamut 0 as well, because those effects stack. People are complaining about, oh, his sacking ability when he goes to the break zone, you may discard 3 cards, play him, he's dope. You don't have to do that. It's a may. Why complain about things that you don't have to do? It's an option. And obviously, if you feel like that there is a chance you could get Amaterasu or Mist Dragon, then don't use the effect. It's as simple as that. Don't discard the 3 cards. If you're running 3 of him, why would you do that anyway if he could be searched with the New Hope that's in the Hidden Trials, the Lightning Hope, Lumina, Mog? I mean, there's so many ways to get multiple copies to Caius to your hand. You don't have to use a second ability. It's just an option. Dude is insane. This is probably one of the best Caius cards that's ever been released. I think this card's gonna make 13 that more potent. I'm sure that people are gonna mix this in with their decks, and even if they don't put this in the 13 deck, if they even put it in the mono fire deck, I mean, this just makes Bahamut free for the most part. There's a bunch of good Bahamuts that's dealing 10k and removing cards from the game. So Caius is definitely an option. Caius is definitely a card you should look out for, because if you don't respect the Caius card, then you might be in for a surprise, and this just makes any Bahamut from this point on that more powerful. And then you got the Hidden Trials Bahamut that gets rid of a card in the break zone and gets rid of a card in the field and just removes them for game. I think he costs 6. You got a Mist Dragon and a Bahamut in one card. Well, semi-Mist Dragon. But anyway, Portia. It's another dancer, water element, 5k. I mean, I like it because when she enters the field, if you control 2 or more dancers, draw a card. If you control 4 or more, you can choose the 4 your opponent controls and put it at the bottom of the deck. Now, dancers are really slept on deck. I've been wanting to play dancers since I read, I think her name is Lilith, or however you pronounce it. It's a lightning element. I think she costs 3, maybe 4. Really nice art. And there's just so many dancer backups that this just makes this borderline free. You play it, you get your card back, that's your 2 CP. If you have 4 or more, or 3 when you play her, you get to bounce a card and put it to the bottom. And then she costs 2, so you could just constantly have 3 in your deck. So if they get rid of this, you always have the threat of getting rid of cards on your opponent's side of the field. I think Hobby Japan is really trying to sort everything out and just make the game fair and just give people options to innovate and do things that I don't think have been done before in the game. I'm really interested to see how cards like this, like people put their brains together and come up with really nice innovative strategies to kind of flip the game over, and I hope that people do that with cards like this. The next card is Soul Cage. Soul Cage is a monster, and if you control 2 monsters or more, it becomes 9k. When he's put from the field to the break zone, you can remove him from the game, and when you do so, choose 1 monster in your break zone, add it to your hand. If you're running a monster deck or you just have multiple monsters on the field, he becomes 9k. He's also always going to be a monster, so you can block with him, you can attack with him, but when he's removed from the field into the break zone, you also get one of your other monsters into the break zone to your hand, and you can banish him from the break zone. I think this is good for a lot of different reasons, because I feel that at some point we're going to be able to interact with cards that are removed from the game, and with stuff like this, you get to potentially loop it if that ever happens. But until that happens, looking at this card for face value, there's so many monsters that once they hit the field, they do stuff, and then most of those monsters become forwards as well. If you can just potentially get back something that does something on entry and then provides you extra value, like in a mirror deck, I think that this card is pretty good, and I think there's a lot of room for it to be used. Next is Lady Lilith. Now, I prefer the lightning variant over this one because you only have to spend 1. Well, I think you spend 3 crystals to banish. It's either banish or blow up a forward, but you could also like steal a forward and then like sacrifice it to get a crystal. This one is just you spend 3 crystals and you choose 1 forward and you gain control of it. Now, if you have a bunch of forwards, you can do that, but it's also a win ability, and then she's only 5k. So this is one of those things like you would only play if you have a myriad of crystals, and if you don't, then I don't really see the point in playing this, because it's not whenever you feel like it, it's when it hits the field. So I think this card will be useful if there's ever a deck that just comes up with a bunch of ways to spam crystals, but outside of that, it's too susceptible to too many things to not have any protection. Now if there's protection, you got the crystals, oh yeah, all sure, but outside of that, I think this card's very niche, and I'm sure it has its place, but it's not gonna be a lot of places it can go until it gets like things that can just ramp up crystals and make it easier to be used. Gladiolus, this bad boy is I don't think it's as good as the one that comes out of the structure deck or the starter deck, but it is an option. It gives you more Final Fantasy 15 cards to play, more retainers. His special ability is pretty much what his old ability was on the starter card on attack, I believe. So this one's kind of like a watered down version. He's there if you need him, and you never know what they're gonna do with cards. Like if there is a card, you just never know what they're gonna do. So I would probably prefer playing the other one over this one. If you can't get to the other one, I mean, you still have this one. Gonna cost a little bit more than the other one, but like I said, he's still there. He's still an option. So maybe somebody can find use for him, or maybe there'll be instances where he comes up. At least with the special here, I guess you don't have to attack, and it's not a win ability. So there's that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just think the other one's a little better. Next up is Soldier Candidate. I saw that this was from the first Soldiers mobile game, and that's pretty cool. I like that. I like the fact that they're using pretty much every Final Fantasy avenue that they can. This one, if you have 2 or more standing units in your break zone, she gets 3k, and when she enters the field, you can choose one for your opponent controls, dull it, and freeze it. You can play multiples of these, so I think that there is pretty nice. You can dull and freeze things, and you can search this off in, I think her name's Emina. She just came out last set, type 0 cards. Really pretty art. But yeah, I think like in a mono ice deck or ice lightning deck where you just need to really quickly deal with something, it's cheap. You can play multiples, and then if there's stuff in your break zones, becomes an 8k instead of a 5k. So I think it's pretty good. I mean, I'm sure there's room for it in a lot of decks, and if anything, I mean, you can deal with something that probably you couldn't beforehand. So I'll probably play this, or I'll at least test it and see what I can come up with. But I think it's a pretty decent card. I think it's a good addition to ice-based decks. And then the last card for the day is Jegrin. There is an older Jegrin, I believe he was lightning, but this one is a knight, and I believe the other one is a knight as well. But this one I really like because it's, 1, it's knights, and 2, it's when it enters the break zone from the field, you can either choose a dull forward, break it, or your opponent discards 2 cards. Now, if they're not obviously doing Amaterasu, whatever, you got options. It's an 8k, so it's not going to be beat up easily. It's a 4 cost, so it can't get hit by cloud. There are so many things that this card just facilitate, especially with knights. I mean, the fact that it's knights, and knights already has just so many good cards that can just do so many things. This helps with your really anything you need to do. If they swing with something and you block, and they've already attacked with something else, you block that card, he goes to the break zone potentially, and then you blow up the other one that's dulled. Or if they have cards in their hand that you're trying to get rid of resources from them, you can just make them discard 2 cards. And then, you know, there's the Charlotte, there's the Laswell, there's the Agrius, there's all these cards that are also making them discard and making them focus on those cards. So Jegrin is, I think, a good addition to knights, and not just knights, just ice period, because I mean, it makes you discard 2 cards. So in ice, that's one of the whole things, is to discard cards. So you discard 2 cards, and let's say you're playing Theodore, that's essentially 5 cards that set of turns. Or you got Biblos, so they dull and freeze something else. There's Vice, there's what's his name, Nero. There's just so many things in ice that can benefit from this, and this also helps knights as well. And I think knights is getting a huge boost in Opus 23 Hidden Trials. So I think these cards are bangers, and I'm just really excited to see, you know, how the player base goes forward with coming up with ideas for all these cards. Now, I do want to say that I have if you look in the description of the video, there's a link to change.org. What it pretty much is letting you know that I'm trying to get Hobby Japan and Square Enix to build like an online client for Final Fantasy, so the people that don't have access to stores, don't have access to, you know, travel, or that want to try out the game, they'll have an option to do so. So I'm trying to really push that forward. So if you want to sign the petition and help push that on up the ladder and let people know that we actually care about the game, that we're passionate, and just everything, that really helps, and I'd really appreciate it. And I'll try to do my best to keep everyone updated on anything that comes up Final Fantasy TCG related, or the petition. So thank you for your time. I know this one was a little quick. I'm trying to get a little quicker about doing the videos, so don't want to waste any of your time, because time is precious. Anyway, this is New Never You BGM, and I hope you have a great week. Peace.